It's the first Dragonite deck on the channel! Huzzah! I've done enough talking about the light Dragonite Rogue, so let's actually look at this card. Its attack costs 3 colorless, which means it can take full advantage of double colorless. We'll get to that in a minute. But the main reason you use it is because of its power Miraculous Wind. As long as Light Dragonite is active, all of your opponent's special energy cards provide colorless instead of whatever they provided before, and none of their secondary effects work. A lot of decks in this format only use special energy cards, so all of your darkness and steel energies no longer provide those, meaning that cards like Sneasel or Steelix can't attack anymore. Even rainbow energies no longer provide any other kind of energy or effect other than colorless, and recycle energies aren't going to come straight back to your hand anymore after they get discarded. But this Pokemon power comes with a lot of discussion and a lot of controversy because of some rulings made by Wizards of the Coast back in the day. And I'll leave this graphic up just in case you want to read through every single ruling about Miraculous Wind. But the main takeaways are that Wizards ruled that a double colorless energy in play still provides 2 colorless energy, and that is not an extra effect on the card that gets shut down. I disagree with that, and I think that later rulings would contradict that once Wizards of the Coast no longer had the rights. But the other ruling is that Potion Energy and Full Heal Energy, those effects would still occur when they came into play. This is because Wizards of the Coast was applying their own gameplay mechanics that they used and incorporated into Magic the Gathering to Pokemon, and that just simply wasn't the case. They thought that when a Potion Energy comes into play, its effect needs to resolve before the effect of Dragonite would hit it, just because of Magic the Gathering's concept of the stack. But that's not how Pokemon works, and the Japanese rulings actually contradict Wizards in this case. So whenever you're playing with Light Dragonites, it's up to you to decide if you want to follow the Wizards of the Coast rulings or the most up-to-date rulings, which say that when a Potion Energy comes into play, that its effect does not happen because the effect of Dragonite is already in play. For the build I'm about to show, I am working within the rulings by Wizards of the Coast because this is the build that reflects how the deck would have been played in the era of base Neo. In my personal opinion, the wording on double colorless energy makes it sound like provides 2 double colorless energy is an effect on the card since it's not a basic energy, but playing within the Wizards ruling does make this deck better. So if you want to argue about it, do it down in the comments. I'd love to have an open discussion about whether or not that's an actual effect on double colorless energy or not. And with that out of the way, let's get into the actual deck list. Full playset of Cleffa because the setup is going to be so intensive trying to get a Dark Dragonite into the active position as fast as possible. That way you can at least slow down your opponent with attaching energies. If they're using a Wigglytuff or a Chansey build, you're not going to have as much luck with this deck because they're using colorless energy anyway. But if you can get ahead of a Sneasel or a Steelix deck, then you're going to be crippling them pretty early on just by having that Dragonite in the active position. Having the full playset of Cleffa is also important because this deck only runs 7 basic Pokemon, and you don't want to be reshuffling and mulliganing a bunch of time, giving your opponent a draw advantage over you. Running a 3-3-3 line of Dratini up to Light Dragonite, using the Rocket Dratini with Light Dragon Air serving as a pretty good stage 1 card. So if you've eked a couple of times, you have your setup, you have the Light Dragonites in your hand, you can go ahead and swap into Light Dragon Air for the active position. Go ahead and get a double colorless on it, and you can utilize it as a counter against Crobat decks to heal off one of those damage counters from your Pokemon every turn. But in reality, the main reason it's in the deck is to evolve into Light Dragonite and utilize its Miraculous Wind Pokemon power, just because it does mix up the metagame so well. It blocks so many decks. And though it doesn't cover all decks, which is why it was never a huge archetype, instead it's more of a rogue deck. But what I've heard from talking to a lot of people about base Neo tournament play is that at any given time, there are really just 2 decks that would dominate the format. Especially if you look through old forums like on Pojo's, you'll just see everyone complaining that every tournament they go to is just Metal Chansey and Steelix. So if you know that's the environment you're going to be playing in, then a Light Dragonite build could actually do pretty well. Igglybuff is in here mainly for if you run into Aerodactyl and you need to shut that down for a turn. Apom is in here just for deck recycling in combo with Nightly Garbage Run. And then Narrow Gem is going to be your go-to gym to help against what I would say is Light Dragonite's 2 biggest competitors which are Metal Chansey and Wigglytuff. Narrow Gem's going to make it where they can't utilize as many tools and deal as much damage in the case of Wigglytuff. But also if you find yourself playing against a deck like Sneasel Muck, where your Miraculous Wind is being shut down and Sneasel's still able to use those darkness energies, you still have a backup plan in Narrow Gem to try to limit how much damage Beat Up can do to you. With 100 HP, Light Dragonite's pretty safe from being O-Code. Most of the time it's going to be 2 shots, and Goldberry is going to help make sure that that turns into 3 or 4 hit kills. On the flip side, you're really only going to be dealing 40 damage per turn after your setup, so it's going to be at least 2 hit KOs for everything you're attacking as well. Because of Dragonite's attack, you are going to be protected from things like special conditions and certain other side effects besides damage, but overall this deck is a slow burn, so very early game you need to make sure you're controlling your opponent's hand size while you're actually getting your own setup. So last is going to be very important early game, utilizing that classic strategy of playing all the trainers you want from your hand first, then playing last, and then using Eek, hopefully getting some of those unused cards back. Using the classic 2-2 Professor combo here, and then I'm also going to be using 3 copies of energy removal and 3 copies of super energy removal. This is going to be another tactic for discarding your opponent's basic energy cards or other double colorless that they're relying on for their build. Those energy removals are also going to serve as yet another backup for if your opponent is running Muck and Miraculous Wind is shut down, you can just discard those special energy cards as well. Speaking of Muck and other cards like Aerodactyls that can be problematic, Gust of Wind is going to help pull those out and trap them in the active position so you can just knock them out the old-fashioned way and try to get that Miraculous Wind power back up and running. And that's really the only reason Gust of Wind is in this deck. Because it's not very aggressive, you don't really need to be pulling Pokemon out onto the bench because you're not going to be getting any OHKOs with this deck. Instead, the focus is going to be split between kind of stall with Goldberry and energy removals, and also searching and recycling cards with Computer Search and Item Finder that are going to let you get those Light Dragonairs and Light Dragonites as quickly as possible. That way you can protect those fragile little Dratinis and then continuously support Light Dragonite to keep it alive as long as possible. That way you can utilize its ability to the fullest and just deal chunks of damage here and there to your opponent's active, which is a slow way to win a game, but a win is a win. So if you are not playing within the Wizards of the Coast ruling, if you think double colorless is going to be shut down by the ability on Light Dragonite, then the rest of this build is just going to be filled out with basic energy cards of your choosing. The double colorless is still going to be very useful for Light Dragonair before you evolve it up into Light Dragonite, which would be shutting it down. But other than that, there's not a lot of other advantages. I'm also using Recycle Energy in this build, even though it does get shut down once Dragonite is out there. But it's just too good to use on Cleffa, because if the Cleffa gets knocked out, you do get that energy back to your hand, if Dragonite isn't out yet, of course. And it can still be utilized for other things like retreating a Dratini if you need to, if it's in danger and you don't have your evolution cards yet. But besides that, the rest of this deck's just going to be filled out with one of each energy type because it's pretty and I like the aesthetic of just having one of every color. That's it. You can fill it in with whatever you want, however you want the color scheme of your deck to go, but you know, just for the video, it's nice to have just one of every energy type. If you splash in another Pokemon like a Scyther or maybe a Kingdra line into this deck, then that's going to determine what your basic energy are going to look like. But if you're running just a strict standard Light Dragonite build, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's up to you. You could even run them as Full Heal Energy or Potion Energy, and it's not going to change anything because you're only needing colorless from them anyway, and Wizards will give you a hand with making them work, even though it's not supposed to. So immediately, I'd say I have people wondering why I don't use Pokemon Breeder in this deck, since you do want to try to get out Light Dragonite before an opposing Steelix or a Sneasel is able to make the scene. But Light Dragonair is a good support Pokemon, especially when up against Crobat decks, and can serve as a decent stall card when you're trying to get your setup. Because the Dratinis are so fragile, I want to be able to evolve them right away as soon as I have a Dragonair in hand, instead of needing the Dragonite and a trainer card. Although there are some techs in here for Muck, Muck is a huge problem for this deck, really difficult to deal with. Another alternative is using Goop Gas attack to try to shut it down for a couple of turns, but you're going to be shutting down Miraculous Wind with that as well. and Igglybuff can't target Muck. So if this is a problem you're running into a lot, I would say double up on the Gust of Wind so that you're running a full playset, and then tech in 1 or 2 copies of Black Star Promo Mewtwo. Alternatively, if Aerodactyl's giving you some trouble, then the best fix for that will be a Gust of Wind or a Double Gust into a Scyther. I have seen some builds of this deck that use Blaine's Charmander as an alternative attacker, for if Miraculous Wind does get shut down, then you would switch into discard mode where you're just getting rid of your opponent's special energy cards instead of shutting them down. But this does also force you to cut down some of your trainer base in order to fit in some more fire energy. Hit up that comment section to let me know how you would run this deck. I love hearing from the TCG1 players on if they've used this deck and what kind of success they've had with it, or what kinds of difficulties they've had with it. Keep throwing your request decks down there. I'll be getting to those soon. Check out the Drunk Shuckle Instagram page. And until next time, bye.